So hello everyone. We have Mike Fritz from Tough Society on today, and we will do next Fireside Chat session, learn a little bit from Mike, not only about Tough Society, but also about him, what got him to, open up a location with PourMyBeer in it, and what helps him succeed, what has he learned, and he has many great tips to share with us. So I'm excited to get that started. All I know is that the Tap Society has been around for quite some time. They have a great social media presence, and I love their dishes, so I have to come and visit really soon. And Mike, I'll let you take it from here and tell us a little bit more about you and Tap Society and what got you where you are.
Sure, thank you. So I come from a business background originally. I worked for Macy's department stores, Marshall Field's before that, for about 15 years. So I started out in their executive and training program, worked through all the store operations throughout basically anything from the dock to assistant store manager I did inside the department store, multiple stores throughout the Minneapolis locations and in Michigan. From there, the last half of my career, I worked for Macy's food division. Some people may or may not be familiar with them, but they had restaurants inside of the department stores. So a lot of Starbucks partnerships, plus we created a culinary council, which included some celebrity chefs, and open restaurants under our own brands as well within the department store. So anything from quick serve, Starbucks to full service sit down restaurants. So basically my job in the food division, I started out as a purchasing manager and learned a lot about food in general, and contracts and negotiations with our distributors, and trying to get the best prices for our stores. From there, I moved on to more of a project manager role where I was basically finding locations in the stores, partnering with our store partners, partnering with our third-party partners like Starbucks or celebrity chefs or whoever, and creating our restaurant spaces in the department stores and building them out. So learned a lot about the operational side. So by no stretch of the imagination am I a chef or a restaurant guy growing up, but I've learned a lot over the years. My business partner's a great help. He's been in the food industry for over 30 years and runs operations now elsewhere. So good person to have. But yeah, so that's really kind of my background. Like I said, I'm more of a business-driven guy. Our menu, you'll see, we don't do anything that's rocket science. Okay. Our vision, our goal is to keep it simple, create a simple menu, make it good, make it reasonably priced, and then have a great beer offering, and that's where PourMyBeer came in. So over the years, we traveled a lot for Macy's, and we saw a lot of different restaurant concepts, and we kind of pieced together all the pieces that we wanted to open our own concept. So PourMyBeer was one of the first things we came across. We actually found that in Chicago, the Navigator Tap Room. Went and visited those guys, talked with them. Duncan, we met Duncan, got some interaction with him. He's a great guy, and we like the technology. So it allows us to have fun with beer, and to have a wide variety, and people can try or as much or as little as they want. As you guys all know, that's why you're doing it. But that was important to us in order to build our business model around that. We want to have a great beer selection, something that not everybody had, that set us apart, and then just have some good food to go along with it. So that's really where we got PourMyBeer and how we came up with our concept, and really just we try to keep it super simple.
Did you know right off the bat, like this is the neighborhood where it will make sense, where software will, be successful, or did you have to look for it?
We looked at a few locations, obviously some older restaurants that were closing down. Ultimately, we decided on our first location because it was very neighborhood driven. We wanted a spot that was very neighborhood driven, very dense population within a short area, to see how things would go. Also in a market where maybe the beer selection wasn't as expansive or good as what we were going to be able to provide. So I think for a first location, it's okay. Would I choose a different location going forward? Yeah, I probably would. Somewhere where that could drive more exterior traffic besides the neighborhood, in order to have a better opportunity to grow more sales. But from a first location standpoint, it's fairly small. We're not super big. We have about 60, 70 seats inside. We can get another 40, 50 outside. So during the winter, we're truly neighborhood driven. People walk, people bike. We don't rely a lot on external traffic per se.
I have a question here from Gore. How big is your total footprint, excluding outdoor space and including outdoor space?
So we are about 2,800 square feet inside. That includes a kitchen. That includes everything. So, like I said, I think we get about 60, 70 seats inside, and we have a small patio and the sidewalk along the building where we are able to expand outside and get probably about another 40 to 50 seats. And if you guys want to, we have a virtual tour available on our website. If you want to see our space, you can actually walk through it on the website.
Regarding the virtual tour, I've heard some more comments over here also in the chat that are saying that it's great. Do you have any tip? Who did you do the virtual tour with? What company did you use? If any of the other PourMyBeer locations decide to do something similar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually, it's a startup company from one of my customers that came in. Actually, we did a golfing event through a food vendor and met each other. So he actually did the work for us for free to kind of advertise his business. So
nice.
I believe the company is called 75F, 75 Degrees. But if anybody's interested, I'm most certainly happy to get you into contact with them. They do Google Street View. They come and videotape your space. You can even use it as much as a operational tool if you want. There's points on there where if you click on it, it'll say, hey, this is where you drop your beer card, but you can use that for your equipment as well. So if you want to use it as a training device or tool for people and take it farther than we did, you could say, here's how you clean the grill, and you click on the dot and it'll go through a video of how to clean it. So there's lots of functionality and great things about what they do.
So, Mike, next question for you. I just wanted you to talk to us a little bit about the space layout in general and your beverage wall setup, how it currently is, and if you could, what would you have done differently, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So our beer wall, we have 26 taps, 13 screens, so we do 2 beers per screen. It's set up kind of in the back side of the restaurant. And then we have what I would call like our bar table. So it's like a large stone bar tabletop, and then it has bar seating on both sides. So it's kind of a small raised area. There's a small ramp up to the beer wall, and it's all tile up there. Everything else in the restaurant is all wood. So it kind of makes you feel like you're the bartender almost by walking back there. And I like to say some of the best seats are sitting right at the bar and watching what people are pouring. That's where I love to sit when it's not super busy, but when I can, just to see what people are pouring, talk to them about beer. Great customers interact with each other all the time. Hey, have you tried this one? It really invites that camaraderie and conversation about beer that we don't necessarily need to have ourselves, because our customers, especially our regulars, are more than happy to share with what they have, and they're right there next to the wall. Seeing what people are pouring and watching people's reactions and giving suggestions as well. So it's fun.
So it sounds like you don't have any wine or any other beverages on your software.
So we do wine. So I do 4 wine taps all the time, just because we found out very quickly that not everybody wants to drink beer, and we have to have an option. Actually, it was for my wife. She said I had to have wine or I couldn't open. So so we do 4 wine taps. Otherwise, sometimes we'll run a hard seltzer water, which seems to be all the craze right now. And then obviously we run a lot of IPAs because that seems to be what sells best. From a beer selection standpoint, I found out really quickly. I thought we'd be able to sell Miller Lite, Bud Light, some of those. So we put some on at the beginning. Quite honestly, I couldn't give it away. People were like, I can get this at home. I can get this anywhere. I think that's going to be dependent on what your customer wants and needs are, obviously. So your beer is going to change based on that. So I think the biggest thing is pay attention to what people are drinking, how quickly it's moving. I think it's important to have a good variety. So we do everything from lagers to wheat beers, wit beers, darks, stouts, porters. But we're very heavy on the IPAs, and the New England IPAs seem to go really well for our specific location. But we try to make sure we have a good representation that people can switch back and forth from.
Yeah, no.
Are you? I'm sorry. I was going to ask her. Are you big on the Minnesota breweries, or do you kind of spread it out across the country?
You know what? Inevitably we end up with more Minnesota beers just because there's a lot of them locally. But I like to tell my customers I don't discriminate. So if I find good beer and we want to put it on the wall, we're going to put it on the wall. So we bring in Toppling Goliath, we bring in Stone. Because I want people to try other stuff that they may not have had locally. That's good beer. So we'll bring in other stuff. We're just getting 3 Floyds into our market. So, some of those new things that are newer for Minnesota go over pretty well.
Did you add any more signage or maybe tap numbers or like staff picks or anything creative that you found that you got good feedback from customers after you opened? So essentially, things that you've implemented over the last 6 to 12 months that weren't there from day one that you've really found to be, good for the customers.
Yeah, I mean, we played around a lot with pricing, and how do we display the price? Is it by the ounce, by the pint, by the glass? Like, what makes most sense to people that are coming from a normal bar scene where they're paying by the pint, right? So I think that was the biggest thing that we played around with a lot. I think we landed on sort of, we're gonna show it by the ounce, and we ultimately had a pint price, but we ultimately took that off just because people didn't really. Let's just say people aren't good at math. They can't do the math, or they can't figure it out. So what seems like a value to us because we know doesn't seem like a value to them when they're pouring sometimes, and it shows that pint price. So what I think we've learned is that if we just put the per ounce price up there, and then maybe we have a special price like during the week, like Wednesday we'll do 4 or 5 taps that's a special price for that day, or during trivia, we have trivia night on Tuesdays, so we might do a special for trivia night where we'll make one beer less expensive or try and run through some stuff that we maybe didn't want and discount it to get it off the wall. But I think when people actually pour themselves and they just see the ounce price and they look at a glass and they go, oh man, that was only $1. Like, then they see the value in it rather than trying to equate it to what their pint price was.
For the existing foot traffic, when you were coming to the neighborhood, as you were saying, you already had a lot of neighborhood traffic around, so it wasn't probably too hard to make it visible that there is a new venue coming to town, right?
No, not at all. I mean, we're on a pretty busy corner with 2 other restaurants. There's a French patisserie across the street, very well known in Minneapolis, one of the best patisseries around. And then across the other side of the street is a Latin fusion restaurant. So we do burgers, fries, bar fare sort of stuff. So we all kind of work together as far as offerings go. We're a little bit lower priced than the Latin Fusion. Obviously, the patisserie is only really open for breakfast and lunch, and they don't do any alcohol at all. So we're kind of setting ourselves apart. It's more wine across the street, more beer at our place, and it makes it a good corner for people to visit. We're not far from Lake Harriet, so people, during the summer will bike around the lake or come down and grab a burger and bike back or whatever. So it's a very friendly spot to get to throughout the neighborhood.
This kind of got you into the competitors, which I think is good, but it doesn't sound like you have too heavy competition in the area, right? Like you mentioned that the other 2 businesses are quite different. So you're already differentiating yourself by the self-pour, but is there anything else you're trying to do, some sort of messaging events, something that your competitors are not doing?
Sure. So the way we differentiate ourselves is kind of the way we operate the restaurant. So we kind of built on the PourMyBeer aspect of serve yourself, and we do self-order kiosks. So we don't have waitresses or wait staff necessarily. We have food runners, which allows us to have a smaller staff. And then we have 3 kiosks set up across the dining room. So customers come in, they get their PourMyBeer card. We obviously tie it to their credit card, and then they're able to go about their business. They go to the restaurant, they find their spot to sit. Normally we're first come, first serve until now, but first come, first serve, sit anywhere you want. And then they just go whenever they want to the kiosk and they place their order. So food and beer are separate transactions for us, which seems to work okay for now. It helps us separate the minors and all that stuff that we need to do from a legal perspective. But it also allows people just to kind of relax, go out to the patio. They want to order their food, burger, great. Come back later. Oh, we decide we want some milkshakes or something for dessert. They come back and they order again. Meanwhile, they're coming back and forth to the wall. So we also don't allow. We try to keep it as simple as possible. So we don't make people come back to check out with their beer card. We simply have locked mailboxes at either door where people just drop their beer card in and then they're free to go. So, people seem to like that aspect. They're obviously able to come back and check out and get a receipt if they want to do all that stuff. But we don't do tips at our restaurant. So that's a little bit different as well. So, what you pay for is what you get.
One of the questions I wanted to ask is, going into the project, it sounds like I'm sure you had spreadsheets and projections and all that going into it. I'm curious, looking back at when you first got opened, what type of revenue did you kind of forecast going in, and what percentage was food versus beer, and then what actually happened? And I'm curious if you're curious of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing I learned is revenues weren't going to be as high as I originally planned, which I think is normal in most cases. And I always like to say, take a very conservative route and make sure that the numbers still work, because it'll only benefit you in the end. Whatever you think is going to be good, maybe take 10% less than that and see if it still works with the numbers, just to be safe. Revenue, we were pretty close to what I projected. We were a little bit less, and I think that I learned very quickly that we're very neighborhood driven, like I said before, and that the growth is going to come a little bit slower outside of the neighborhood as people got to know our name. So I don't think we saw the revenue that we wanted right off of bat, but we're slowly building every year right now. So that continues a good trend. As far as beer and food sales go, I actually thought I was going to do more beer sales than I'm doing food. I figured it'd be about 60-40 beer to food. We're actually doing pretty close to 55 food and 45 beer.
Okay.
So it's a little bit backwards from what I anticipated it would be. And I think part of that is, once again, the neighborhood, and the amount of families and kids and stuff that we get in there has definitely changed those numbers, I think.
And is the bulk of your business in like a 2 or 3 hour window, or do you kind of transition from lunch, dinner to kind of the after dinner crowd, or is it like, how does your traffic flow?
So I would say we're very heavily dinner driven. Because we're in a neighborhood, most people are at work during the day, so our lunch traffic really isn't that high. And I think if we were in a different location where we had more of a lunch traffic, our sales would be exponentially larger. So, a lot of times I only have 1 or 2 people during normal times staffing the restaurant during the day. And we're able to do that because of all of our technology. As far as dinner goes, that's when we're busiest. I would say between any given day, 5 to 8 o'clock, I'd say 70% of our sales are coming.
Okay.
Friday, Saturday nights, obviously we get more beer sales. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and that helps push our sales average up for the week.
Nice. That's it's always, I said you're not an entrepreneur unless you've forecasted out your number and you've celebrated that number before you've actually done anything, right? So it's
Yeah, right. Yes.
um, now, yeah, I guess from a and now, how many partners went on this project with you? Did you do a capital raise for this project, or was it primarily self-funded or SBA?
Yeah, so I have one other business partner. We split 50/50, and we did an SBA loan. So we came up with the down payment cash ourselves, and we just do an SBA loan for the rest.
I wanted to ask first, what POS system are you using?
Sure. So I've actually done 3 different ones now.
Wow.
So
That's a lot.
that was one of our fun challenges because we really wanted to have the self-serve order kiosk. So that was really important to our business model and what we wanted to accomplish. So we started out actually with Aloha, NCR, POS, whatever you want to call it. Their format was okay. The self-serve, they weren't quite there yet. It didn't have the functionality that we really wanted to have for our customer-facing piece of it. Plus, they didn't have some other like online order and stuff that was easily accessible and doable. So we got rid of them probably within 6 months. Wasn't happy with their service. From there, we went to Lavu. Lavu POS was a better interface for the customer, but had some negatives to it. It didn't operate offline, so when we were down, which is not ideal for any business or restaurant. Their online ordering system wasn't as nice as some of the other ones I've seen. Didn't really ever get up and running. And then when their system went down, they really didn't back up with their customer service. So there was probably a week or two where I lost a lot of money. We'll put it at that. And they really did nothing for me. So their customer service wasn't great. So we got rid of them, and now we're on to Toast. Toast.
Okay, so Toast is the winner. Okay.
Yeah, Toast is the winner. They've been great. They've helped me do everything that we want to do. Online ordering. The customer-facing interface is great for the customer to go through the menu. Super easy to change menu items or take things on and off. I do all of the menu changes myself, which, I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So it's a great system. They try to make it as user-friendly as possible. Great with photos, great, easy to get onto their website, all of those things.
I think that if I exclude the European and South American locations of PourMyBeer, we soon are going to have like a very dominant market here in the U.S. that's going to be PourMyBeer and Toast family. Like there's more and more Toast being added by like really every week. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that you have a good experience with that. How long have you had Toast?
We've been with Toast now since last October.
Okay. I have a question here from Noah. He's just asking, with everyone pushing no contact payment, etc. right now, are you still pre-authorizing guest credit card when they check in?
So we haven't been able to do anything yet. We start on Monday with our outdoor patio. So I think the plan for us is to, still pre-authorize cards. We're obviously going to be disinfecting cards between every use. I've ordered a plexiglass just barrier between the register and the customer so that when we do make that transaction, they're able to pre-authorize their credit card and give it back with that barrier there, much like a grocery store or anywhere else. And then, like I said before, the thing that we do differently than some PourMyBeer, I Pour It locations is we actually don't want them to come back. We just want them to drop their card in a locked mailbox, and then they walk away and they're done. So, like I said, we don't do tips, so we don't have to worry about them adding tips on. That's just the way we operate. We take donations instead. That's one of the things we do from a marketing standpoint is we pay our employees a little bit higher wage, but we take donations, and then we turn that back around into the community. So that helps us fund different charities or local sporting teams or whatever else rather than taking those tips.
I wanted to ask a little bit about, since the beer is a heavy focus for you, can you talk a little bit about Untapped? I saw from the pictures that you have Untapped.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you have the Untapped integration, but I wanted to hear a little bit about your market, if you feel that it's mainly for you as an easier display menu that you're using, or if you think that it's also benefit for your customers since they can, use it as basically like their check-in and, follow all your beers.
So yeah, I think Untapped is great. It's a great tool for us, especially. Obviously, it maintains all of the beer information, makes it very easy to download into the PourMyBeer system and pull it up to your screens. We do a digital menu board for just beer above our tap wall. We have 3 TVs, and we use Untapped for that menu board. So it's instantaneously changed, and I think that's part of what people like is, when we change a beer out like mid-shift, they see that, hey, there's a new beer up here. It'll pop up as new on the menu board, and then they're like, oh, I got to try that. So that makes it very easy. The information's all there. Super easy to download, from an iPad. We can make our changes on the fly, straight into the menu, and people see it instantaneously, which is the fun part, because then they're like, oh, there's something new to try. Or we finished that keg, they get excited, like, we drank all that one, and it just makes it fun to see new beers coming in and that screen showing it right away. Our beer list is up to date all the time on our website, and we have people that follow certain beers from Untapped and come in specifically if we get a new Toppling Goliath beer, and like, I know 3 guys are going to show up in the next couple days to have that beer. So that's a good marketing tool, just Untapped in general, of, hey, people follow this beer, they can find it, and it's up to date on our website, so that before they come, they can say, hey, what am I going to drink, or what's there to try, what haven't I tried, and they can kind of do a little research before they get there, which I think helps.
And this kind of takes us a little bit more to the marketing, serving your customers, your group of customers. What do you feel like they need? What do you see that they need? So can you talk about, first of all, any tricks and marketing tips that you maybe can share with us that have particularly worked well for you?
Yeah, I think, we had some wins and we had some losses in that department as well, and that's part of the learning curve of what works for your location. As far as other marketing things, we've done, we've done the Facebook, which I don't think brought me a ton of value specifically for my location. I think it's a lot of money for what we got out of it. It may not be the same in every market, but for our specific neighborhood, it didn't seem to drive as much external traffic for the amount of money we're paying, so we don't do that anymore.
Sorry, can I just go back? When you say Facebook, just to specify, do you mean organic posting and you had agency doing that, or do you mean Facebook?
No, that's more of the Facebook ads where you pay and they send it out to a certain number of people or whatever. We still use Facebook, we use Twitter, and we use Instagram just organically, posting about, hey, we got this new beer, or here's a burger. Those are things that we just do in-house for the most part.
Yeah.
Have you ever experimented with influencers, like where you say, hey, I'll give you $100 of food if you come here and, post some videos, and you've got a $50,000 or 50,000 person following?
That's a great idea. We actually haven't touched on that a whole lot, and I know there's quite a few in the Minneapolis area that I follow, so that's actually a pretty good idea. I like that.
Back to the marketing a little bit, I just wanted to hear some more takes on your branding and your story. If there is a story that you tell your customers, what way you communicate it? Yeah,
so I'm fortunate enough to have a wife who's an interior designer for an architecture firm, so they helped with all of our branding and design interiors. So we get a question a lot, are you guys a chain? This looks like a chain. And we're like, no, we're not a chain. We just did it really well. But I think from our story is what we want to be, especially for our first location, is we're a neighborhood hangout. We want you to come in. We want to keep it simple, and we want you to have a good time. So if that means bringing your kids, bring your kids. We hand out Teddy Grahams and Goldfish. All the kids that come in, they love it. They know where the snack drawer is. They go and grab it themselves. So they're very comfortable there. We have board games, so people come in, drink beer, hang out. We try to keep a weekly routine of we do trivia every Tuesday, and then we bring in local artists and do music every Thursday. So we're really trying to just portray that neighborhood hangout, and people can kind of rely on those things every week as something to do that they can come and check out and do. So meanwhile, keeping it simple, we're not superly overpriced. Our burgers are reasonable, food is good, and they can come back more than once in a week if they want to.
That sounds great. How do you do that? How do you get them come back? Do you have any special trick, loyalty program in place, some sort of incentive?
You know, we really don't do a lot of loyalty programs. We don't have any of that. Really, it's just trying to keep the beer list fresh. When a keg comes, we put something new on. We try and keep that rotation going because that's what people want. Like, they can come back every week and have 3 to 5 new beers even during the slow season. As we move through kegs, and there's something new to try. And I was trying to make sure that I'm bringing in, you know, something new, something that's just come out or different that people want to try. Even if it's something I don't like, we try to do it because, you know, my taste is not the same as your taste, and we all like different beers. So it's important to remember that when you're doing your beer list and your wall to keep it fresh and to keep it moving so that people can try new stuff, because that's the beauty of the system is they can try an ounce and see if they like it, and, you know, maybe they find a new favorite.
Okay, so I'll take it a little bit more towards your staff training, how to keep staff around. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. Like, any secret sauce you want to share with us on how you hire staff and how to keep them around?
You know what? Like I said, I'm pretty simple. I try to make sure I interview or at least meet every person that we hire. I have a pretty small team. I only have about 14 people on my staff. We might get up to 20-ish in the summer when it gets a little bit busier, but I found the biggest thing for us in the neighborhood is finding high school or college students that live or work nearby. They've been really great in keeping that staff coming. When you find a couple of good eggs that have good friends, they'll keep bringing people back year after year. So I have 3 or 4 college guys that go to school and then they come back and they work full time during the summer, and it's great. Other than that, the first question I ask people is, are you a good person? Like that's what's important. Like, are you able to talk to me and just have a simple conversation? Do you want to do the right thing? Are you a good person? Because if you're here just to work and collect a paycheck, then I'm not interested. So
has anyone ever said they're not a good person?
Not yet, but find out really quickly if they are or not. I mean, it becomes pretty evident. If they don't have a quick answer to that one, or they have to think about it, then that leads me to believe that maybe it's not going to work out, and then we go through the rest of the interview and see what's going on. But I think that's just a good icebreaker of, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do? Are you a good person? Like, what makes you happy?
My dad, he used to have a bar, and he always asked a question: do you like people? And he had a few people telling him, no, I hate people, asking for a waitress or bartender's job, and saying that it's probably not the best start. But
I mean, for us, I think the other thing is because of the way we run our restaurant and how simple it is. Like I said, I'm not a chef. We don't do anything that's rocket science on the food side. So if I can't make it, we're not going to do it. And that applies to my staff as well, because it makes it easier for people to do multiple jobs. Maybe they've never cooked before, but you know what? I can show you how to make a burger. Like that, we can do that.
Well, whatever you say, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit, because all your sales is food, and if customers keep coming back, and this is a neighborhood place, everything is. I
mean, I learned a little bit about food, but I'm definitely not a chef. So, but I think that's part of what makes it good is even when I'm not there, people can execute and do what we're doing and make it good. And that simplicity of what we do and offer. And the other thing is for me, if you're not a team player and you're not willing to do everything in the restaurant, then you're not going to work there. That's, whether it's back of house, front of house, everybody's going to touch every piece of it, because we have a small team and a small space, and we all need to jump into different roles, so everybody learns how to do everything. sure, people are going to have their strengths of where they're better, and we can put those people where they need to be. But at the same time, if you're running food out, you're going to interact with the customer. If you're checking in beer cards, you're going to interact with the customer. So, whether you're in the kitchen, like all of those things matter. And if you can't do it, then you're not going to be part of the team. And the rest of the team is going to let you know, because we've built that team environment where people hold each other accountable.
Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to that, because we keep hearing it from one successful customer after another. So definitely. I have a question here from the chat. If you could talk a little bit more about that tipping model and how you keep your staff fairly compensated and just, make them feel happy and content and want to stay.
Sure. Yeah, I think part of it is working environment. Money isn't always everything. I think having a great work environment definitely keeps people happy and wanting to come back to work. Minimum wage is heading towards $15 an hour. We're not there yet in Minneapolis, but we pay people above minimum wage, and we're not doing anything really hard or super skill oriented where you need to be a chef or whatever. You can walk in off the street and you can get a job. So we pay people fairly above the minimum wage line, and most people are happy with that. We let them know in the interview right away that we're a non-tip environment, and some people who were servers in the past, that's not going to be their gig. That's fine. But there's plenty of people out there who do not mind not getting tips, and they get the wage that they think is fair. And if they don't, then obviously they move on. And we always want people to do better and to grow while they are there, and we try and teach them what they need to do to make the next step. We're a starting point or a midpoint for a lot of people on their way to college or whatever they're doing. So I think for us, not taking tips makes it simpler from a customer standpoint sometimes. Yeah, we field the occasional question of why don't you do tips or how do I tip? We do donations instead, and I think that helps offset some of that. So we take donations on our self-order kiosks, and we turn those around, and we take all those funds and we turn it back into the community. And I think that helps lessen to a certain degree the not having a tip. The other thing is I try to explain to our customers is that you're doing half of the work yourself. It's just like going to Chipotle or something else. Like, you're walking through the line, you're telling them what you want on there. They're not necessarily doing a ton of work, and neither are we. We're running food, we're keeping the place clean. I get that. So yes, they're working for their dollar, but at the same time, you're placing your own order, you're pouring your own beer, you're getting your own water. All of those things that we have in a self-serve model. And it makes it a great place to come for the customer, because they know when they give a donation or they give extra money that it's going back into their community. So whether it's a food shelf or whether it's local sports or bands or whatever, high school teams, that's where we turn around and give that money back.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have a script in place for them, or do you let them take it from there and just listen to them and see, like, yeah, that's good, you can take it from there?
Yeah, I think you mean from an employee standpoint of...
Yeah, do you have a script for, like, do you have a script for them, like, explaining how the software works? If a new, and I'm sure that you still deal, even though that you're a neighborhood, Tap Society is a neighborhood establishment, I'm sure you have still new customers coming in, and they need to be explained how the self-pour works and how the self-order kiosk work. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's always a learning experience when somebody comes in that's new, right? And you give them the spiel of, here's how you place your food, and they're like, what? And then this is how you pour your beer. So I think it's important for us to, if it's somebody's first time there, that we take them up to the wall, we show them how to do it. And the thing I always tell my staff is, if you ever see anybody having a hard time with a pour, if they get too much foam, take a minute, fill their beer, show them how to do it. We're not going to jump over pennies to get $1 here. It doesn't make any sense to try and, have somebody leave not happy with the product. So we just try it. And the thing we do with our whole staff is everybody needs to take care of the customer. So if they see somebody or somebody has a question, just take care of them. We're not trying to save that $1 on a half cup of beer. Just pour them a new beer, show them how it works, give them a little instruction, make them leave happy.
I had a question here from Gore in the chat. If you can talk a little bit more about how you developed your menu, because he's also coming from a business background, and for some people this might be a struggle.
Yeah, so I mean, I think originally we started out and we were like, we're just going to do burgers and fries. That was it. Like that's it, and we're gonna have great beer. So we started pretty small. We only had a few burgers. We had fries. We had milkshakes. Those were kind of our staples. We learned very quickly within like the first month that people want a little more variety, especially in a neighborhood where they're coming back multiple times a week or a month. So we've added some things to the menu, but the key thing for us is we don't have a very big kitchen, so we're limited in storage space for our food, so we can only allow so many ingredients to come in order to be able to execute our menu. So it's cross utilization. What do we have and what else can we make with it? So I think that was important for us. And adding variety. So we've added a few salads. We added a chicken sandwich. We have a lot of different appetizers, but we don't do a ton of fresh ingredients. We have lettuce, tomato, the typical stuff, and then for the salads. But other than that, most of our stuff comes in frozen, but they're great products that are easy to execute and quick. So I think for me, it's making sure that we're priced right. So deep diving into the food costs and making sure that we're priced competitively in the market, and then just making sure whatever we put out was a good product.
Real quick on the food and beverage costs, are they consistent with kind of the industry averages? Is that one of the things that you're constantly kind of tracking? Is what's the beverage cost, what's the food cost, and then have you seen them go kind of out of array, and then how did you adjust it?
Sure. I think from a food cost standpoint, I'd say we're pretty competitive with most restaurants. We're probably running around a 28% food cost, which is pretty good for most restaurants, I think. As far as beer cost goes, we've played around with our pricing quite a bit, and to be more competitive, I think we're probably running between a 20 and 25% beer cost, which is pretty reasonable, and obviously we make more money there. So
I have just out of top of my mind, I do have a question about if you have growlers and if you're selling them, like if you've been selling them to go. That's just something I'm curious about. But
I wish. I wish I could. Minnesota does not allow that, so that's a licensing issue here in Minneapolis. So they're allowing us to sell cans and bottles for takeout and delivery, which is not normal for us, to help offset some of that beer loss. But that's designated for breweries only.
Yeah, that's definitely a big trend, though, racing as well. People are drinking more from home, and it's going to be definitely still lasting for months to come, that people just will want to do pickup and take out. So if you do want to maybe take advantage of it and sell some cans on side for whatever you're offering on taps, that might be a great way to just bring some extra dollars in. Are there any other key performance indicators, anything you're measuring really on a, let's say, weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, to make sure that your operations are moving forward, things are going well, anything that needs to be changed?
Sure. I mean, for us, it's obviously food, beer costs, those are everybody's. And then I think that the next biggest one is always going to be labor. And that's a changing market right now, especially with the different staffing model we're going to have with the COVID-19 going on. We're going to have to change some things there. The way we operated before COVID-19, we were able to keep a very low labor cost just based on how we operate. Self-serve, self-pour. Really, we could run the restaurant most days on an average of 3 to 4 people. So, and ramp up for the weekend. So we were running close to a 15% labor cost, which is crazy. We're gonna be more than that, and we'll have to plan and figure that out. But those are things that we have to do in order to keep our customers feeling safe and as we move forward.
So I'll go ahead and transition into that section. You can share your post-COVID strategy with us, and would be great definitely to hear from you about the outside seating. That's a really big racing trend. We're seeing that all across the country. So if you can share more details on that, it would be great.
Yeah, so obviously here in Minneapolis specific, but we are going to be going to outdoor seating only, max capacity 50 seats, and that's only outdoors. They're limiting the table number to 4 people per table. Unless you're a family unit, then it can be 6. So pretty rigid here in the Minneapolis area as far as how other states may be opening up, but I think you'll see more of that as we go forward. But so we're looking forward to getting as many seats as we can outside. Obviously, they all need to be distanced 6 feet apart, which limits some of the space that we have normally. But they're also very willing to look at alternative solutions, expanding your patio seating into parking lots or around the other sidewalk that you may not normally be on. And they're doing a no-fee plan for that to be able to expand and get approved. So those are all things that we're looking at now, working on for Monday. Obviously, with the beer wall, we're going to try and do our best to make the beer wall accessible to people, because I think that's the key piece of our business that we like. So we're going to look at single-serve glasses for people who don't feel comfortable. Obviously, we're taking a new glass every single time somebody comes in and washing everything. Providing disposable gloves for people who don't feel comfortable, or just having somebody at the wall to pour their beer if they don't want to do it. But I think being able to experience the beer wall is part of our concept, and something that's important that we get back to. So I don't want to necessarily limit people to just having a pint or a 10 ounce or whatever. I want people to be able to try stuff. So whatever we have to do to make that work is what we're going to make. Trying to.
One of the suggestions on that, Mike, one of our customers said I thought was a good one is just publicly showing that you're cleaning the handles and the screens. So like every 20 minutes you have like a timer that someone's going to go over there and just kind of do a quick wipe down of the wall, just so that the people that are there get the sense that you're staying on top of that.
I think for us, my plan is to have somebody staffed up there to, one, limit the number of people at the wall at a time, and two, between every person, clean the tap handle and wipe things down, so that we provide that safety aspect of things are getting cleaned, and you can feel comfortable pouring your own.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, Josh, we see Bella. She's very pretty. We see her pretty face. I do want to ask Mike, are you planning to have, for example, different graphics suggesting that, rotation should happen just one direction or anything like that for the beer wall traffic?
Yeah, so we currently have 2 doors in the restaurant. We're going to be directing enter and exit doors. And because of that, if you've looked at the virtual tour, the bar table, there's really two spots where you can enter the wall. So we're going to designate one side as an entrance and the other as an exit, so that we have a constant flow of how people are going through there, and we can sort of control or maintain how many people come up to the wall at a time.
I think Mike must be ready for some water or a beer, better, maybe even wine.
Always beer.
So I do want to thank you, Mike, for your time and for allowing us to ask you questions and learn from you. We've all very much appreciated, and it's been great getting to know you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.